Welcome to today's math video lesson. Today's lesson is going to be on circles, finding the circumference, and finding the area of a circle. This is all review, but for some of you it's going to seem like it's brand new, so let's go ahead and get started. First off, we have a joke here. It says, how does a pirate solve for half the diameter of a circle? And if you have any circle knowledge, you'll know that a diameter is the distance that's all the way across the circle. So the way that we find half of that is by using R, and R represents the radius. So today we're going to learn to find the circumference and area of circles. And some of the words that we have are that we're going to review are circle, radius, diameter, and circumference. So just a little bit of filling in the word blank. This first one says a blank is the set of points in a plane that are a fixed distance from a given point. This is going to be a circle. And the point that they are fixed distance from is called the center. Up next, we have a blank connects the center to any point on the outside of the circle, and that is going to be a radius, so a R. And then the diameter is going to connect 2 points on the circle, and it's going to pass through the center, diameter. So here is a visual of the words that we just talked about. So we've got the center of the circle right here in the middle. And then if you go straight through from side to side through the center, you've got a diameter. A radius connects that center to any point on the outside of the circle. And then the entire distance all the way around from start to beginning is called the circumference. Always remember that a diameter is 2 times a radius. So take a radius, multiply it by 2, and you've got the distance all the way across that circle. And then down here at the bottom we've got a circumference of a circle is the distance that takes to go around the outside of the circle. So in order to find circumference, we've got an algorithm. The circumference of a circle is pi. Remember, pi is that irrational number that we use. People like to approximate it to 3.14. For today's lesson and for what we're doing in our class, we're going to actually use the pi button on our calculator. So make sure that when you're calculating that, you're always using that calculator and not just using 3.14. Your answers might be off a little bit if you do. But back to the words, the circumference C of a circle is pi, 3.14, times the diameter, or the distance across, or 2 pi times the radius. So that's confusing. Basically, depending on what information you're given, if you're given a diameter straight across, you'll want to use circumference equals pi times your diameter. Or if you're just given a radius, you'll want to use this equation, circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. So let's do some examples. Together I want to do these two, A and B. So we're going to find the circumference of a circle. We want to find it both in terms of pi, and then we're going to use that answer to find it to the nearest tenth, and we're going to use the button on our calculator for pi, so we don't want to use the approximation of 3.14. So let's see what that looks like. So a circle with a radius of 4 meters. So the first thing that you need to know is your equation. So remember, we had 2 equations. We're given in this example a radius, so we want to come back and remember that we're using this equation 2 pi radius. So our equation was circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. In this example, it says that our radius is 4. So I'm simply going to substitute a 4 for my radius. And then I'm going to multiply. So 2 times 4 is 8. And I get 8 pi. Now this question asks us to find it both in terms of pi, which I've done, but then it also wants us to find it to the nearest tenth. So on the calculator I'm going to do 8 times, and then I'm going to use the pi button, and then equals, and it's going to give me a big, long, yucky decimal, and I'm just going to round it to the nearest tenth, so 25.1. And now I've got it to the nearest tenth also. So these are the 2 answers we're looking for. The next example says a circle with a diameter. So all the way across. So again, I'm going to use the appropriate equation. So this time I'm going to use circumference equals pi times diameter. I'm not loving this pen. So now I'm just going to do some substitution again. C equals pi times our diameter this time is 3.3. So that one was very simple. It's 3.3 pi for our first answer in terms of pi. But then we're just going to use our calculator, and remember we're going to do 3.3 times pi using the pi button, and when we do that we end up getting 10.4 feet. Okay, so up now, these were some you do. I'm going to have you guys complete on your own a circle with a radius of 8, and then a circle with a diameter of 4.25 inches, and then make sure that you have me check them. Make sure that you're finding them both in terms of pi, like a number pi, and you know what they are, a number and 1/10. And then have me check those. Okay, up next we've got a measurement application question. This one is a tiny bit tricky, but it's not too bad. So we have a Ferris wheel, and I don't know if you guys know what a Ferris wheel is, but it's one of those rides at a carnival or at a fair where you get on at the bottom and then it's like a big circle, it goes up to the top and then it comes back down, and sometimes they go around and around. But that's all it really does. So we've got a Ferris wheel, and it's telling us that it's got a diameter of It's got a diameter of 56 feet. So it's a pretty decent sized Ferris wheel. How far would someone travel during a ride if it made 15 revolutions? So revolution means to go around once. So first we need to find out how far it is to go around once. But then after we find that, which is our circumference, we're going to multiply it times how many times it's going around, which is 15. So we're going to do it times 15. So let's go ahead and start by finding our circumference. Because we're given a diameter, we're going to use our formula C equals pi d. And for this, our diameter, we're going to substitute 56 for d. So 1 revolution around is 56 pi. But remember that we're going to take that and we're going to multiply it by 15 because we're going around 15 times. So we've got 56 times 15 revolutions. And that's going to equal 840 pi. And then to find, and we were measuring everything in feet, running out of space over here. We're going to put that into the calculator, and we've got 840 times the pi button, and then equals, and we're going to round that to tenths. So we get 2,638 and 9/10 feet if they were to travel around that Ferris wheel 15 times. Okay, now I have a you-do, so a second hand on a clock is 7 inches long. What is the distance that it travels in 1 hour? And then you're going to use the button on the calculator for pi and round it to the nearest tenth. Okay, now we're going to start area. Area of a circle is pi times the square of the radius, or radius squared. So you're always going to want to have radius, even if they give you diameter, you want to change it to radius because you're going to have to square that radius, and that's not the same as the diameter. So let's do some I-dos. Area equals pi r squared. So if we have a circle with a radius of 4, so our formula's area is pi r squared. Substitution, our radius is 4, so we're going to square 4, so 4 times 4 is 16. So in terms of pi, the area is 16 pi. And using the calculator and using the pi button for your pi estimation, we're going to get 50.3 inches. Okay, now an example where it gives us diameter. So this time they're saying our diameter is 3.3. Well, when we're dealing with area, we do not want to use diameter. We have to use radius. So knowing that a diameter is 2 times radius, if they're giving us 3.3, why did I write pi? So we're going to divide by 2 to get our radius. So radius ends up equaling 1.65. And again, we did that by taking this number and dividing by 2, basically. Now we can jump into our formula, which is area equals pi radius squared. A little substitution, we know that our radius is 1.65. So we're going to square that. 1.65 times 1.65 equals a big ugly decimal. 2.7225 times pi, and then put that into our calculator. Yuck. So 2.7225 times pi button equals, now we can finally make it nice and readable, 8.6 when we round it, meters. So as you can see, these can get a little bit messy. You might have to do quite a bit of manipulation with the numbers, and they're not going to just be super simple answers to come up with. So now a couple of you-dos. I want you to try one where you're given the radius, and then obviously just like B, where you're given a diameter, so you're going to have to divide before you plug in. So see how you do on those and make sure you have me check them. Okay, last one. These again are application questions, but finding the area and circumference on a coordinate plane. So we're going to graph circles, and again, we're going back to practicing graphing on a coordinate plane. So all these plotting points that we've been doing all along, it's still, being used in our lessons. Kind of something that if you didn't learn it the first time through, you still need to learn it. And some of you are just learning it by accident because we've been doing it so much. So we're starting with a circle with the center at -2, 1. So this means walk to -2 and then ride up to 1. And you can see that center is right there. And then it's going to pass through the point 1, 1. So we know that if it passes through this point right here, that it's going to be, that's a distance of 3. So any point that's a distance of 3 away from that center point is going to be a point on that circle. And that also tells us that 3 is our radius, so our r equals 3. So now that we know that, we're going to find the area and circumference, both in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth. So we're really looking for 4 answers here. So let's start off by finding circumference. Circumference is 2 pi r or pi d. They're giving us the radius. So we're going to use the formula c equals 2 pi r. Now let's substitute. We know that our radius is 3, so 2 pi times 3. A little simplification, 2 times 3 is 6. So in terms of pi, our circumference is 6 pi. And then on our calculator, if we take 6 times pi, we get 18.8. And it's no units, so we can just put units. So there's the first 2 answers. And then to find our area is pi radius squared. And we've got a radius of 3. So we've got 3 times 3. And 3 times 3, of course, is 9. So for our circumference, we get 9 pi. And if we plug that into, that is not circumference. Now, if we plug that into our calculator, 9 pi, we get 28.3. And this one, because it's in units that are area, they're going to be squared, so units squared. So there's our 4 answers. Circumference of 6 pi, 18.8 units, and an area of 9 pi, 28.3 units squared. Okay, my last question is for you to try. So graph the circle with the center, -2, 1 that passes through -2, 1 that passes through -2, 5. And you're going to find the area and circumference just like I did before, both in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth. So you're going to be coming up with 4 answers just like I did. Circumference in pi and calculator, and then area in pi and calculator. So see how you do on that one. Have me check it. Make sure to turn in your notes so that I can give you your credit. And then when you're ready to move on, I can get you started on your practice. Good luck, guys. Let me know if you have any questions.